of the most famous and well-known couples of literature and even pop culture have come from comics, not all end up becoming the most celebrated or iconic.
Yeah, in fact, there are definitely some unconventional, unlikely, or just straight up awful couples that you have yet to hear about. Some with good reason, others without.
Welcome back, Nerd Squad. I'm Amanda McKnight.
And I'm Taylor McWaters, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 comic book romances you never knew happened.
Get ready to explore some of the most obscure, bizarre, and forgotten romances, and let's get to it. Number 10. Donna Troy and Terry Long. Donna Troy was known at this time as Wonder Woman's little sister. She is the hero known as Wonder Girl, who is spun as being an Amazon from Themyscira, like Wonder Woman, but a teenager. Terry and Donna's relationship ended up becoming so serious that the two got married, and he was such a constant when it came to the Titans as a supporting character that even Starfire, Donna's BFF, ended up developing a little crush on him, and he on her, to be honest. That was also pretty creepy. Donna and Terry ended up having a son together before Terry filed for divorce and a restraining order because Donna's superhero lifestyle was too dangerous for him. In the end, he and both his daughter from a previous marriage, oh yeah, he was married and divorced before he ended up with Donna, and he and Donna's son ended up dying in a car crash because, well, probably no one wants us to remember their weird and pretty awful relationship.
Number 9. Black Cat and Wolverine. Wolverine and Black Cat Claws was a three-parter released in 2010. When Felicia Hardy first met with Wolverine, they were both kidnapped by Kraven the Hunter in order for him to, well, hunt them down on his beautiful tropical island. The ultimate game of manhunt, I'd say. Now, when the issue started, Black Cat and Wolverine weren't really a fan of each other naturally, but when you're running and fighting for your life, emotions will probably be a little tender, a little exposed. But hey, nothing brings two people closer like beating up bad guys to a pulp, or of course, long walks on the beach. Either one's fine. So while it turned out that Kraven was actually a robot the whole time, spoilers, the real villain all along was Arcade and his girlfriend, White Rabbit. Bunch of fun games they're putting on there. They were behind all of this, and in the third part of the story, the cover alone suggests that the pair got much closer than the beginning of the tale. Black Cat steals a helicopter, Wolverine almost gets eaten by a fish. It's pretty tense. Later on, Black Cat admits that Wolverine was growing on her, and then a few days later, on a date, Black Cat also reminds Wolverine that she too can smell pheromones. And then we'll leave the rest up to your imagination.
Number 8. Catwoman and Nightwing. Another one that I'm sure we'd rather forget. For those who aren't aware of this romance, it has definitely been shipped before by people, and the idea of Catwoman and Nightwing together has even made its way into the comics. Albeit it was mostly Selina doing the seducing here and Nightwing kind of just trying to make her stop, but definitely appearing at least a little tempted. I mean, this is Selina Kyle after all, who wouldn't be tempted, you know what I mean? Catwoman did some flirting and kissing with Nightwing while attempting to go after the same diamond that he was looking to protect. In the end, he figured out what she was really looking to do with their little dalliance, making sure that Nightwing decided to kiss and tell, thereby making Batman jealous. What? Selina, ew! This whole thing is pretty gross, and especially as like some sort of weird jealousy bait. Not even just because of Catwoman's motivation in this story, but because Nightwing is like a son to Batman. So that's like Catwoman making out with her own stepson.
Number 7. Supergirl and Comet. Of course I have to talk about the time Supergirl fell in love with her pet horse. Of course. Now before you react, hear me out. It's a sapient horse with magical powers who at one point was actually a centaur in ancient Greece. So, you know, it's not too bad. It's still kind of bad. It's still a little bad. But dare I say it, he was actually quite handsome, I have to admit. He first appeared in Adventure Comics 293, and he became Supergirl's beloved pet, and then in Action Comics issue 301, he became a human being. I wish my dog turned into a human. I'd be like, hey man, what's up with the Q-tips? Why are you eating Q-tips every day? Yuck, stop. So just how did this happen? Well, a comet, that was passing Earth, turned him into a human man appropriately named Bronco Bill. And if the name isn't selling you, he also became a rodeo star. I guess he has quite the experience in the field, literally speaking as well. Supergirl and rodeo star Bronco Bill fell in love and dated for some time until he, you know, turned back into an animal. At that point, they called it off. Look, I have so many questions, I'm just afraid to ask them.
Number 6. Tony Stark and Emma Frost. A lot of people have been confused about the potential future wedding that was made mention of in History of the Marvel Universe issue 6 between Tony Stark and Emma Frost. Or maybe you're not confused because maybe you didn't know about this, but this is a thing. This seems like one of the most random mashups to happen in comics, within the same universe at least. And yet some are speculating it could just be a marriage in name alone, and more about a strong business partnership cemented through marriage. However, did you know that Tony and Emma actually have a romantic history? You might have missed the brief mentioning of it, but back in the 2006 Civil War in issue number 3, it was alluded to that Tony and Emma have potentially been sleeping together on and off for years, when neither of them were otherwise attached. As weird as these two together sounds, I mean, it does kind of make sense. Both are powerful people with an appreciation for the finer things, and who are both masters when it comes to business dealings. So they might have more in common than you think. And if you're wondering, yes, Scott does know about it apparently.
Number 5. Lois and Superbaby. Okay, being turned into a baby can be fun, definitely. In issue 147 of Batman, Bruce Wayne became a baby for a little and Robin didn't, so it was a good time. It was fun. The dynamic was funny. Just a little Batman using balloons to gain height. It's great. But sometimes it can get a little weird. For example, in Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane issue 59, we see more of this babyverse come to life, and it's kind of serious and totally creepy. It starts out with Superbaby getting spanked, which is quite the intro. Well, in this comic, Superbaby is from an alternate reality, and Superman is still a thing. He's still his own unit. So Lois brings home the baby version, and Superbaby starts ripping photos apart, just being a pain in the ass. It's the 60s we're talking about, so Lois spanks him a lot. She's like rolling her wrist out in between. I mean, he's the baby of steel, so it's gotta hurt a little bit. Things get even more weird than all of this when you realize the story is just about Lana and Lois fighting over who gets to marry the older Superbaby. This is one I hope I forget, but now you have to live with it as well.
Number 4. Jimmy Olsen and Mrs. Gzptlsnz. Jimmy has really random, weird, and random luck with women. Sometimes he gets the most charming ladies, and other times the most troublesome ones. Remember that time Harley Quinn pretended to be a love columnist who was interested in him because she actually wanted to kill him? That happened. He's had all sorts of superpowered and alien girlfriends over the years, but one of the weirdest instances of romance for Jimmy happened in issue 100 of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, during an issue where we saw him married, or almost married, to Lucy Lane, Lois's sister. In fact, the wedding ended up not happening after all Jimmy's exes showed up, who still had a thing for Jimmy, including Miss Gzptlsnz from the 5th Dimension. We'll just call her Miss Giz for short. Thank you past Amanda that wrote this. She is a trickster imp who hails from the same home as Mr. Mixie. She loved Jimmy so much, she sabotaged his marriage to Lucy, making it so that every time the pair kissed, Superman would be transformed into a mole. I'm not kidding, this also really happened. Something Jimmy later referred to as the mole effect. Wow, that's great, Jimmy. Miss Giz's undying and mischievous love for Jimmy actually succeeded in breaking up Lucy and Jimmy. Jimmy never gets any love in the end.
Number 3. Killer Croc and Orca. A fishy match made in heaven, that's for sure. I wouldn't want to double date with these two. I mean, the smell alone, I'll take the check. Let's get the hell out of here. In the Injustice Elseworld series, Killer Croc and Orca are married. Now, they must have met on Plenty of Fish or something. Now, that sounds like a pretty serious romance as it is, but in Injustice Volume 2, issue 42, things get to the next level. Orca walks in, announces that she's pregnant, and the room goes silent. No one makes a peep. There's a dull in the air. And then Killer Croc just slowly stands up, looks around for a little, and then tells the gang that he should probably head out now. He's not too pumped at the moment, but we definitely were.
Number 2. Rogue and the Sentry. This is a weird one that just randomly was retconned into existence. But what do you expect with the Sentry, one of the original heroes who himself was retconned into existence? During Sentry's funeral in Sentry Fallen Sun, after the death of both him and his wife Lindy, we see all the heroes gather to pay their respects. They all share their feelings and memories of Bob over a few beers, and a water for Tony because, as Sentry taught him, he always has a choice. While reminiscing, Rogue reveals that Sentry was the only person who could touch her, though I'm pretty sure Magneto can kinda do that too, at least in some realities. Anyways, because Sentry was the only person who could touch her, they ended up having a deeply emotional and physical relationship. We don't really know what Lindy thought of this, or when exactly their relationship happened, or how that all works. This is all we get before Rogue runs off in tears, and I don't think it's ever really mentioned again, so that's kinda weird.
And number 1, Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn. Do you think if you met another version of yourself, you would like them? Would you fall in love? I had this conversation with my friend after watching Loki recently. I could date myself maybe for a week, and then I would go through my phone and be like, who's this guy? And I'm like, you tell me, bro. But when Harley Quinn met herself back in 2016's Harley's Little Black Book, she fell in love. It was great. From Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, we get to see 6 issues where Harley teams up with other big names, like Superman, Lobo, but then things get unique when Harley meets herself in one of these fun alternate universes, and it's great. They love each other, it's a ride. This whole issue was a good time, but it just honestly made me think if I could date myself. Amanda, could you date a clone of yourself?
I would date me. I would date a variant of me. So either like male, female me, but like,
Yeah.
you know, has to be a little different.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, what about you? So quick, he's like, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we're both like, yes, we would totally do it.
I would do it. The same clone, same height too. We could dance together. Oh, it'd be great. The curls, we get lost in each other's curls. It'd be beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today on Top 10 Nerd. But before you head out, make sure you tap that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. You guys rock. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters.
And I'm Amanda McKnight. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.